As many predicted, the Russia-Ukraine negotiations did not yield much because both sides have always held their own positions, with neither willing to Ukraine even expressed anger, calling on allies to increase sanctions if Russia does not agree to a cease. After the negotiations held in Istanbul on May 16, Ukraine continued to maintain a firm stand, despite the two sides having achieved some technical results. Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesman Haran Sekni stated that Russia had put forward some proposals that Ukraine considers unacceptable, though he did not specify these conditions. He also mentioned that the Ukrainian delegation remained calm during the dialogue and stood firm on their position. Sekni added that Ukraine was ready to reach a ceasefire agreement on the day of negotiations, but this could not materialize because the Russian delegation was at a technical level and lacked the authority. Ukraine expressed appreciation for Turkey's mediating role in creating a space for negotiations, viewing this as a positive step that could contribute to efforts to end the conflict. Meanwhile, diplomatic sources cited by international media claimed that Russia had made demands far beyond the previously discussed framework, including requiring Ukraine to withdraw forces from territories still under Russian control, something Ukraine completely rejected. Some sources asserted that Russia demanded Ukraine withdraw troops from all four eastern regions of Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson, areas that Moscow claimed to have annexed following referendums in 2022. Russia's stance has faced criticism from the international community. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer also stated that Moscow's demands were unacceptable, while expressing support for Kiev's position in the negotiation process. May 16 marked a notable step in Russia-Ukraine relations, as it was the first time in over 3 years that the two sides resumed direct negotiations in Istanbul, Turkey. Following the meeting, Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, who led the Ukrainian delegation, said that the discussions covered many key issues, including a ceasefire, humanitarian matters, and the possibility of organizing a summit between the two countries' leaders. Umerov praised the agreement reached with Russia on exchanging 1,000 prisoners. This is a significant achievement. He emphasized that the next goal is to promote direct dialogue at the highest level between the two leaders. According to him, President Volodymyr Zelensky is hopeful about the possibility of such a meeting taking place in Istanbul, and it could be the next step in seeking a solution to the conflict. Although affirming that Ukraine still has the capability to continue fighting, Umerov frankly stated that what the entire country ultimately needs is an end to the war. Also present at the press conference, Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Kyrgyzstan described the day's negotiations as a positive conclusion to a day seen as challenging. He stressed that the outcome was not surprising but the result of weeks of relentless effort from Ukrainian leaders, the support of the US, the Turkish president, and European partners. Despite optimism about the initial success, Kyrgyzstan remained cautious, noting that this is only a test that needs further consolidation. He also called on the international community to maintain diplomatic pressure on Russia to advance the and warned that now is not the time for complacency or self-satisfaction. Immediately after the round of negotiations ended, Russia expressed satisfaction, while affirming that Moscow is ready to continue participating in future meetings. Meanwhile, Ukraine had a completely different. The Kiev government quickly began mobilizing international allies to prepare for stronger measures. Ukraine expressed hope that the West would impose additional strict sanctions if Russia does not accept the proposal for a 30-day ceasefire put forward by US President Donald Trump. As soon as the negotiations concluded, President Volodymyr Zelensky had an important discussion with Trump, with the participation of leaders from France, Germany, and the NATO. In a statement released after the phone call, Zelensky emphasized that Ukraine is ready to act urgently to achieve real peace, but also warned that the international community must take a firm stance against Russia's actions. He made it clear that if Moscow rejects the proposal for a comprehensive and unconditional ceasefire, then strong sanctions must be triggered and maintained until Russia ends the war. The message Mr. Zelensky shared on social media also clearly reflects Ukraine's firm stance. Only when Russia completely ceases fire and ends all military actions will there be a real opportunity for the peace process. The US and Europe also led to a joint statement from the UK, France, Germany. In it, these countries expressed disappointment with Russia's stance in the negotiations on May. Consider that unacceptable. This shows that although the diplomatic atmosphere has shown signs of opening up, it remains with increasing pressure on Moscow from both the Ukrainian delegation and Western allies. On the battlefield, on May 16, the fighting in Ukraine escalated as the Russian army made significant advances on the battlefield, particularly in the Konstantinovka area. Ukraine's defense line in the southern part of this area has been breached, forcing infantry units to retreat in a critical situation, in which the 109th Infantry Brigade was surrounded between the villages of Bardasovka and Karantsovka.
Russian forces are reportedly conducting the final phase to completely eliminate the Ukrainian defense sector in southern Konstantinovka.
Russian forces took advantage of Ukraine's delayed troop withdrawal to inflict heavy loss.
Notably, in the Joya area of southwestern Chasiv, Ukrainian units withdrew under intense artillery fire.
On the entire front, Moscow continues to intensify. In the east, Russian forces have fully captured Husky after weeks of fighting and have shown signs of advancing further toward Borivar. In the south, Russian forces also gained more control in Malinivka and the area near Lenin. The Russian Ministry of Defense confirmed that the Central Military Group has captured Novoalexandrovka and is approaching the Dnepropetrovsk region. Pro-Russian sources such as Redinko report that Russian forces have tightened the encirclement and intensified offensive pressure along several key directions. Meanwhile, Ukraine has been pushed into a defensive position and is conducting strategic withdrawals in many areas due to the next round of negotiations between Russia and Ukraine, if it takes place, will continue to reflect the complex reality that both sides are pursuing to soon achieve a substantive peace agreement. The most recent meeting in Istanbul showed positive signals in form but still did not bring any breakthroughs in substance. The fact that both sides maintain communication channels is commendable, but that alone is not enough to change the military situation. As is known, Russia is holding the advantage on the battlefield with continuous waves of attacks, particularly in the Donetsk. With a clear military advantage, Moscow appears to want to use negotiations as a tool to consolidate what has been gained and even expand the issue further. Meanwhile, Ukraine maintains a tough stance, resolutely refusing to give up any territory. President Zelensky and the Kiev government affirmed their stance that any peace process must begin with Russia's withdrawal of troops from Ukrainian territory, including Crimea and the annexed Donbass regions. Western support, particularly from the US, EU, and NATO, provides Kiev with additional political strength, encouraging Ukraine to make. However, this also makes the space for compromise very narrow, especially in a context where trust regarding the possibility of the next negotiations. It is highly likely that further meetings will continue. The country plays an intermediary role with a desire to assert its geopolitical position. However, if there is no significant change in the military balance or diplomatic then the upcoming round of negotiations will still mainly focus on humanitarian issues and the exchange of humanitarian corridors or temporary ceasefire. The prospect of achieving a comprehensive ceasefire or a sustainable peace framework remains very dim. One possibility is that the two sides test a short-term ceasefire mechanism based on a conditional truce model. For example, within 7 or 14 days, creating conditions for peace. However, this depends on many battlefield situations and the strategic calculations of if Russia continues to gain offensive momentum, they will have no reason to stop. Conversely, if Ukraine receives significant additional military aid, the ability to counterattack will make Kiev less willing to make concessions. In short, the next round of negotiations between Russia and Ukraine is still likely to be simple. Dialogue is still necessary, but peace remains very distant.
Only when both sides feel enough pressure to change their core stance.
Like the journey? Subscribe and join the next expedition.